Okay, I'm Molly. I'm new to the design center because I'm new to design. I started a wallpaper company a couple years ago called Housewife Essentials, and I did not know anything about wallpaper, not one thing. I never even owned a home. So I was like, oh, but this would be really cool to make wallpaper that reminded me of my grandma. And my grandma was the kind of person whose house, like growing up, we'd always visit, and there was like the purple room, the yellow room, like a very, you know, I don't know. I think it was 90s, but I don't know if it was actually 90s, but in the 90s, that's what we would, see at her house. And I was like, wow, I love color so much. I want to do this. So I was like, it can't be that hard, right? It was. And but we figured it out. So now we are a full-fledged wallpaper business with, a ton of different papers, patterns, styles, textures. And we are based here. We have two different print houses that we use, both in Detroit, which is super important to me to really lean in while we're here and support all of everyone we can, really. So yeah. My first job was working for Ralph Lauren for their website. And that's when I really learned about color and how much it means to me and just affects me. And I always say that, and I know it sounds so dramatic, but I really am very sensitive to color. And I mean that in a good way. But, also if it's a bad color, I like want to die. If it's a good color, I never want to leave the room. So knowing that, I try to just assume all of my clients are the same. Hopefully they're not, and usually they're not. But, I always find when talking to clients about putting color into their rooms, assume that they're going to be hypersensitive and then pull back accordingly, and you're going to get a really good outcome and everyone's going to be happy. So with that, we make patterns that look like this. They look like tweeds. We also have florals and everything, but this is our bread and butter. But when you show somebody this, and if it was on a different screen, you'd see the colors that are a little brighter. But this, to me, it's too much. And when you get a sample, everyone's scared of your sample. Everyone's like, what can I do with this? It's too busy. It's too crazy. So my pretty much only piece of advice for anybody when it comes to color wallpaper, even murals, is you have to zoom out and learning to train your eye when you're looking at samples, whether it is paper or fabric, even a throw pillow, how does it fit in the whole room? If you cannot conceptualize that, you cannot move forward. And I would say, all of the mistakes that we've seen and had to correct, which, happens, it's because either the client or the designer we were working with or whatever, this got lost. So when you can zoom out and be like, oh no, it actually ends up just being a color, is when you can really make some really good progress. See, it's just a color. It's really cute. But I always say, the biggest thing I've learned, and I'm sure everyone here can relate, is that Pinterest is the absolute worst thing to happen to designers ever, because I am confident this has happened to you where a client will be like, I want this, my budget is this. And you're like, well, this is a $200,000 room, and this is $20 for the whole space. But, I think there are so many ways now to manage those expectations. And I just laugh because, we'll see these rooms, and I know the big trend right now with color is you have like the ceiling and the trim and the doors, everything's the same color and it's shiny and like a lacquer finish. And then it's like, okay, we can do that, but you really want that? When you say you want color, do you want color? So managing client expectations. And I know, like with this room in particular, if you saw the wallpaper itself, the sample next to that picture, I would tell everybody they would have run away. It's too much. It's too crazy. But when we took a step back, did obviously a mock-up, which is like, oh my God, if you don't do a mock-up, like I can't, you won't understand the vision. Then you can really see that you don't have to be scared. You don't have to be scared of color. We love color. Color is great. but playing with color, figuring out, I always say, figure out what is your star. If your star is the wallpaper, that's a very different than using a pattern like this, where this is clearly a background. Might as well be paint. Much better than paint, but might as well be paint in the sense that everything else can sort of bounce off it in a really nice complementary way without feeling too overwhelming. And I really do believe that this mentality also goes for murals too, because there's always going to be one thing your eye sees when you can take a step back and zoom out. There's going to be that thing, whether it's in a mural, a tree, I don't know, a bunny. I always see like little bunnies and birds and stuff. I'm like, okay, if that's our main thing, how do we design around it in a way that makes for a beautiful space? You have to pull back. That's my only advice. My favorite advice, because it works every time, but that really is the biggest thing I've learned. And I think no matter if you're going to layer, no matter if you're going to do like the monochrome thing, which I do feel it's very trendy, but I'm also obsessed with it. So it's hard for me to like balance that. It's all the same. Just make sure that you are taking that approach and you're just always looking at the bigger picture, always zooming out. So that's all I got. Yeah. Anyone have any questions? Oh, also for everybody here, I do have samples in our booth, but I also have a Valentine's Day gift for everybody in there. They're little decals. If you have kids, they're super cute. So you can take those too. Yay. Yay. Anything else? Sure. All the time. So it's funny. I started, and this may go over some people's heads. It certainly goes over my husband and my sister, who were the only people I was talking about it with at the time. But when I was really working on this, it was during the NFT craze, where everybody was making custom one-of-one works of everything. And that's kind of what I wanted to do, because I wanted to make a pattern that was like for my grandmother, that embodied like her spirit. That was really the inspiration. And I figured, oh, everyone's going to want to do this, and it'll be their custom thing. So I really went down that rabbit hole for quite some time, and then nobody cared about putting it on blockchain, but that ended up being fine, and we just still do the custom work anyway. So that was the whole vision, was everyone will have their own pattern. Also, I realized most clients don't have 2 years. So the way we were originally making these designs was taking 2 years. Now it's like 3 weeks. Yeah, all is well. I know. You can figure it out, but it took 3 years to figure out how to get it from 2 years. So it's so crazy. It's so crazy. But I think anybody who's worked with, wallpaper knows that so much goes into it, especially with like dye lots and color. So I actually prefer custom, because then it's like, well, you can't compare it to the last one when you under ordered and needed the panels and they didn't, so it's great. Yeah. Any other questions? Thank you.